tonight, the government is opening up the market for licensed pot shops.
We expect to see about 20 stores per month over the next year.
We're thrilled to hear the news.
By removing the cap, the province hopes to clamp down on the number of illegal stores. Plus,
I look out the window and there's no car, and I just thought, oh, not again.
A Toronto couple has had their SUV stolen twice since May. They say its computer system is being hacked. And a Toronto woman who spent 2 years in a hospital bed waiting for the surgery she desperately needs, missing her daughter's wedding and the birth of her grandchild. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. Ontario is planning to open up the cannabis market next year to allow for many more retail stores. It announced today it will abandon the current lottery system and financial commitments that stop many from being eligible. As Kelda Yoon tells us, the customers and shop owners she spoke with say it's about time.
Inside Hotbox in Kensington, it was welcome news.
It's fantastic, right?
Hotbox can only call itself a cannabis lifestyle store. It can't sell pot and almost went bankrupt after it failed to secure a license in the first 2 lotteries.
I put my life savings into the fact that I was going to be able to sell cannabis legally, and then, boom, lottery, and the rug was pulled from underneath us.
Now she'll have a chance to apply in an open system.
It's something that we intended to do from the beginning, but we had to make sure the fundamentals were in place.
The Attorney General says pre-qualification requirements will also be nixed. In the past, that had included things like having a location and financing lined up before applying.
Because it's private retail, we expect that it will be most effective at combating the illegal market because they will go where the people want the product.
Consumers we spoke to say it should have been an open system from the beginning.
I feel like there's not a lot of availability as far as like smaller rural towns in the province, unless people want to drive all the way to Toronto and go to the 2 or 3 legal dispensaries here. They're going to resort to the black markets.
I mean, only limiting the amount of stores to ones that I can count on my hand, especially for Toronto. There was one store at the beginning servicing 3 million people in the core of the GTA. It didn't make sense.
The Alcohol and Gaming Commission will begin accepting applications from retailers on January 6th. The province plans to issue its first 20 new licenses in April. Business has been booming at this legal store since it opened.
I know that I've gotten calls from our existing licensees already who are really excited to expand.
Both she and Roach say they are glad the province is finally putting consumers first.
It's fantastic, right? The point of legalization was not to make a lot of money. It was to make sure that cannabis consumers were purchasing legal cannabis, and people who were growing and selling illegal cannabis could now convert into the legal market.
The one rule the province isn't getting rid of, it will still ban anyone with ties to organized crime from getting a license. Kelda Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
There was a scary moment on the ice tonight during an OHL game between the Niagara Ice Dogs and the London Knights. Just a warning before we show you this video, it is very graphic. The accident happened about 40 seconds into the second period. You can see a Knights player collide with the Ice Dog goalie, Tucker Tynan, in the crease. Tynan drops to the ice and appears to clutch his right leg as a pool of blood emerges from his goalie pads. He was quickly taken away on a stretcher, the team tweeting afterwards that he is in stable condition and undergoing surgery. The game was postponed and will be rescheduled to a later date. As you saw, the National Conservative leader Andrew Scheer announcing today he is stepping down.
I will be resigning as the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. And as our party begins to embark on this exciting opportunity, electing a new leader, my only ask to my fellow Conservatives is this: let's stay united.
Now, Scheer plans to stay on as a Saskatchewan MP and will remain as party leader until Conservatives hold a new leadership vote. He's asked that the process begin immediately. Now, following the announcement, the Prime Minister thanked Scheer for his service and the sacrifices his family made as he led the party through the last election. Now, during the election campaign, Scheer, of course, campaigned here in Ontario, but never really alongside Progressive Conservative Premier of this province. Today, Doug Ford put out a statement saying, "I wish Andrew Scheer all the best as he undertakes this new chapter in his life, and thank him for his service as the head of Her Majesty's loyal opposition and leader of the Conservative Party. I also want to take this opportunity to give my best wishes to Mr. Scheer's wife, Jill, and their 5 children." Well, 4 separate teachers' unions are taking the government to court. They are launching a charter challenge to a law the province passed last month that limits public sector wage increases. All this as unions in the provinces are struggling to agree to new contracts. Lorenda Redekop has the latest from Queen's Park.
We should have a right to free collective bargaining. And this bill abrogates that right.
4 unions heading to court, launching 4 separate yet similar charter challenges over Bill 124. It caps all public sector wage increases at 1% per year.
This is not about money. It's about the right to negotiate without government interference.
The bill became law last month, officially called the Protecting a Sustainable Public Sector for Future Generations Act.
Instead, it is an insulting attempt by the Ford government to undermine public sector workers and sow division among Ontarians.
The government says it's needed to limit spending. Today, the minister repeated his message.
Bill 124 is fair, reasonable, and time limited. I think it's fair, it's reasonable, it's time limited, fair, reasonable, and time limited manner.
He also said this.
I wouldn't have proposed it if I didn't think it was defendable in the courts.
A similar bill under the previous Liberal government also headed to court and lost. I'm dreaming of a fair contract. Bill 115 took away the right to strike and froze wages. The interim Liberal leader says he expects this bill to lose as well. Bill 115 cost the government at least $100 million. The elementary school teachers union still hasn't agreed to compensation in that case. The unions say even though they're launching another court challenge, it doesn't mean they can't bargain for their new contracts.
We're not simply, as the minister has referred to 300 times, focusing on or bargaining only for compensation. There are a number of other key items that we are bargaining.
But the rift between unions and the government is clear.
The heads of the unions want to make sure they line the pockets of the unions. They don't worry about the teachers, they don't worry about the parents. Our government worries about the teachers.
Contract talks are scheduled for next week with both the elementary and high school teachers unions. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Kelly Kennedy's here with the first look at the forecast. I like the way the temperatures are going.
Yeah, I like the direction they're going as well. Funny thing, isn't it, that we're finally seeing some milder air pushing in with this turnaround at the temps. That's because the winds have turned around in more of a southerly direction today than that west-northwesterly flow we had. Increasing clouds, though, yeah, well, we certainly saw quite a bit of cloud cover through the afternoon hours today and becoming more partly cloudy overnight tonight, but then clouds will be building back in again tomorrow. And Saturday, it does still look like rain is going to be coming through. If we could get that system to track just a little further eastward, I think we'd be doing better in the GTA, but for now, it looks like it's going to be coming right on through. But let's just deal with the short term first of all, which as we go into tomorrow morning, there'll probably be just a little bit of cloud cover, but it gets heavier into the afternoon hours and maybe just some sunny breaks by then. Then it's Friday night into Saturday morning. We'll see some mixed precipitation perhaps coming in first, so early in the day before this turns over to rain. I'm going to get into that in more detail and go a little further into the day on Saturday. Overnight tonight, your low -1. That's pretty good after -9 this morning, right, Mike? And 5 tomorrow afternoon. That's where we're headed.
Looking forward to that. Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
We have a story now of a family coming forward trying to save the healthcare system some money. A woman says her mother has been taking up an expensive, complex care bed in Etobicoke for 2 years, waiting for a very specialized surgery that would put her on the road to recovery. The problem is she can't get any answers as to when she might get the operation she needs. Lisa Shing has the details.
For 2 years now, Ula Jabber has only been able to see her 10-month-old granddaughter at her complex care room at Trillium Health Centre in Etobicoke. Jabber can't speak because she's been connected to a breathing tube ever since she suffered complications from pneumonia 4 years ago.
There's no worse feeling than seeing a loved one suffer, and I think that is the hardest thing that I had to go through because I'm her only child.
For the last 2 years, she has been waiting for a procedure that could potentially allow her to live without the tube and return home.
Are you okay, Mama?
A Toronto specialist has agreed to perform the surgery, but Jabber's daughter, Fatima Salim, says her mother is still waiting for the doctor to set a date.
What is it like being able to only see your mom here in complex care?
As each year passes, I just think to myself, like, had it been done already, she would have been home right now.
Salim says her mother has missed major milestones, her wedding and the birth of her daughter.
I mean, there are days where I'd go home and just cry myself to sleep because I couldn't do anything about it, really. We have never been updated about where on the list she is. Has she even moved up? There's no transparency whatsoever.
The room Jabber is in is also subsidized by taxpayers. Salim says someone else who may need it more could be in there if her mother's procedure had already been done.
She's on a waiting list, and it's not fair that it's in turn affecting other people.
A report from our Lisa Shing. Now, that story caught the attention of opposition leader Andrew Horwath at Queen's Park today, who questioned the health minister about it. Here's part of that exchange.
Can the Premier explain to Ms. Jabber's family and to all Ontarians why anyone should have to live in a hospital bed year after year waiting for procedures that should be available but simply never arrive?
This was a very rare and unusual procedure. There are very, very few surgeons who are able to perform this procedure. So this was not anything to do with hallway health care. This had to do with the particular circumstances for this woman.
After CBC started making calls on this story, Princess Margaret Hospital, where the surgery would be performed, called the family to say the doctor would see about scheduling Jabber in the new year. We will be following up.
Walking by this building in Leslieville, it looks like a bunch of businesses, but some residents tell us they've been living here for decades. I'm Talia Ricci, and coming up, now some of those residents say they've been faced with eviction notices after fighting to have residential tenancy instead of a commercial one.
A group of tenants in Leslieville claim they are being forced out of their homes. Now, the building they live in is industrial, but the residents say they've been renting there for years. At the center of their fight with the landlord is a rent increase. Talia Ricci explains.
From the outside, 276 Carlaw appears to be mostly businesses. But there are residents who have called these trendy lofts home for decades.
The landlord proposed a 55% rent increase to me, and other people were also getting pressure to move out or pay exorbitant rent increases.
The tenants have been signing commercial leases. The building is zoned as industrial, so it's not covered by residential rent controls. Residents say they only got eviction notices after winning a fight to be recognized as residential tenants at the Landlord and Tenant Board.
It's obvious that this is a retaliatory eviction because we dare to defy the landlord's wishes.
In a statement to CBC News, the lawyer representing the landlord says a landlord is permitted to terminate a residential tenancy in order to convert the unit to a commercial use, adding the landlord never agreed to permit residential tenancies. But this listing from 2010 describes a loft as open concept living, and tenants say others who live there aren't being evicted.
We're clearly being targeted for standing up for our rights.
The City of Toronto said the landlord hasn't applied for residential permits and that it will be conducting an inspection and taking action. The tenants have a hearing at the Landlord and Tenant Board to fight their eviction in January. Currently, their eviction notice states that they have to be out of their units by the end of February. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
A Toronto couple says their Lexus SUV has been stolen 2 times since May, and both times the thieves were able to take it without having keys. They say the vehicle's computer system is being hacked, and they say they have security footage to prove it. Greg Ross has more.
It didn't take long for Danny Goulas to realize yesterday was going to be a bad day.
I had my coffee. I was going upstairs to get ready for work. I look out the window and there's no car, and I just thought, oh, not again.
Oh, yes, again. For the second time in 7 months, Goulas' 2017 Lexus LX 570 had been stolen. Only this time, he captured the thief on his security cameras.
The car's parked here, he shows up, and 9 minutes later, he's driving away with your car.
Yep, it was that easy.
It happened just after 3 o'clock Wednesday morning. First, the thief can be seen walking up and down the street in front of Goulas' house, and within seconds, he's at the driver's side door.
Looking at his backpack, there was something flashing. So they're so organized. Obviously, they have a way of getting into the car.
It took about 6 minutes for the thief to open the door. About 3 minutes later, the lights come on and the car drives away.
I'd say the car is parked about 20 feet from here, and the box where I keep the keys is a good 40 feet from where we are.
The first time Goulas had his car stolen, he was told the thieves likely hacked his key fob. But this time, he had it tucked away in a tin box at the back of his house.
I thought this time it was foolproof.
It took close to 4 months for Goulas to get his car back on the road the last time. It was found in a shipping container in Montreal. They believe it was on its way to be sold in another country.
If it's in a container, it's going somewhere abroad, and there's a market for it.
According to the Insurance Bureau of Canada, Lexus SUVs were the 7th most stolen vehicles last year. In a statement from Lexus Canada, a representative told us, our industry has been working closely with the Canadian insurance industry and police authorities across Canada to assist with investigations related to vehicle theft. Goulas thinks they need to do more.
I hope that Lexus fixes this, and Toyota. I think it's a Lexus-Toyota problem, but I'm not an expert.
Goulas says the next time he buys a car, it won't be a Lexus. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
He didn't back into the car.
Well, tonight was the red carpet premiere of the film Anything is Possible at the TIFF Bell Lightbox. You can see some familiar faces there. That's Toronto Raptor Serge Ibaka. Marc Gasol also coming out to support his teammate. The documentary follows Ibaka on his improbable journey from the streets of Brazzaville in the Republic of Congo to the NBA. The premiere marks the first full-length documentary from Uninterrupted Canada, an athlete empowerment brand which recently expanded into Canada with support from Toronto rapper Drake.
The weather update is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
The Toronto FC re-signed its captain, Michael Bradley, today, and he's taking a significant pay cut to stay with the team. But he says he and his family love Toronto, and it's worth it.
Playing here, winning here, it means more. It's pretty simple. When you spill your heart and your soul into something every single day, the emotion of that, that part is so special. And so, you know, for me, my family, you know, what the club, what the city means to us. In the end, it was this was the only place I wanted to be.
The new deal will see him drop from the $6.5 million he made last year to $1.53 million a year. That's under a salary cap, and that opens up room for the team to pursue a new marquee player. Bradley has been with the TFC for 6 seasons. The 32-year-old American led TFC to their only title back in 2017 and to the MLS Cup Finals this season. Caller Kennedy's back with their extended forecast. It's warming up. We've got some precipitation this weekend, but at least we don't have to shovel it.
Yeah, it would be nice for a change, right? It is December, and we're getting towards the end of December. We're getting closer. Okay, mid-December, whatever. The holidays are coming, and so we're talking about a rainstorm primarily. Now, there may be a bit of mixed precipitation. I'll kind of show you when and where we'll be seeing that. I do want to just give you that little reminder about our average height this time of year is 1.4, our average low -6. We were at -9 this morning, and then the temperature's been climbing since then. This is kind of the setup as we're headed towards the weekend and what's going to be coming our way. So we've got this area of low pressure that's kind of just hanging in there. Out ahead of it, we're getting that southerly flow that's helping to pick our temperatures up. But there's moisture down here towards Florida and coming into the southeastern U.S. that's going to be riding up the eastern seaboard. This will kind of die out or at least send its energy towards this coastal low. And as that moves up, that's our player as we go into the weekend. So for Friday, we see increasing cloudiness, but overnight, this is 1 a.m. where I've stopped this, we may get a bit of mixed precipitation moving in first, but then changing over to some rain. And you can see it looks like the way it's going to move through that we'll get some periods of some heavier rain in there before it moves away. At least it moves relatively quickly so that we should, again, a little mix on the backside Saturday night into Sunday morning, but we should have it out of here mostly for Sunday, but then breezy conditions once it exits. So for the second, wet for the first half and then breezy for the second half of the weekend. But for overnight tonight, as those temperatures climb a little bit or remain relatively steady in some cases, -1. Partly cloudy with some increasing cloudiness into southwestern Ontario. And that's what you'll see with your highs tomorrow, right around 5 degrees. Again, more clouds through the afternoon hours, just like for the GTA, partly cloudy for the most part overnight tonight. Above freezing for you in St. Catharines, sub-zero elsewhere around the GTA. And then tomorrow afternoon, 4 to 5 degrees. Anytime we get some sun in there, especially earlier in the day, is going to be quite a nice way to end the week with temperatures like this well above seasonal averages. Now into Saturday, still mild. That's why we're not shoveling. This will be rain. There's that little bit of a mix into Sunday. The temperature comes down, and then it does fall Sunday night into Monday. We go back to overnight lows around -5. Monday night into Tuesday, Mike, I'll just give you a hint. There could be another system of some interest moving through. For now, it's still a little far away for us to put too much emphasis on that.
Enjoy the weekend while we can. Thanks
Yes.
a lot, Colette.
You're welcome.
Is it the pleasure of the House that the motion carry? I declare the motion carried.
Ontario is set to get its first Poet Laureate in honor of a Canadian literary and musical icon. I'll tell you more coming up. Before things wrapped up at the Ontario Legislature today, MPPs passed a private member's bill to create the province's first Poet Laureate position in memory of Gord Downie.
My advance apologies to the real poets in the gallery today, but it is my humble opinion and supposition that it's difficult for a member of the official opposition to convince the government to consent to a bill they themselves didn't craft and present. But today, in a display of democratic leadership, let's show the gallery some true nonpartisan fellowship. Together, be we, be bourgeois or proletariat, for Gord Downie, let's create a poet laureate.
Percy Hatfield introduced the bill 2 years ago, shortly after Downie died. The successful candidate will now be in charge of promoting the arts and literary scenes in Ontario and acting as an ambassador for poetry and literature. Canada and many major cities, including Toronto, also have poet laureates. Well, that's our newscast for tonight. Tomorrow on Metro Morning, is it just me or have you noticed there's a plethora of cookie-cutter Christmas movies on Netflix and other streaming services? They all seem to have the same plot. Well, BuzzFeed's Alamin Abdulmahmoud will be here to sort through the good and the bad. I'll be away tomorrow night. Talia Ricci will be here at 11 o'clock. Good night.